Hi, I'm Becky Toothill, and I've never played D&D or created a podcast before, so I've got some friends to help me. First up, here's Jen.
Hi, I'm Jane Eris Magnet. I am Maniac Janiac on Twitter and YouTube, and I appear on Queer and Pleasant Strangers with Laura Kate Dale, which goes out on Sundays.
And I've got my other half, James.
Hi, I'm James. If any of you know me, then that's a bit weird.
And I've got my friend Nick to DM for us.
Yay!
I'm American.
The plot twist.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
I'm the NicFlair on Twitter.
Okay. So, I've read the player's handbook and I've heard the game played before, but I've no practical experience here to learn as I go.
It's my first experience actually with 5th edition. I'm relying a little bit on James to correct me if there's something that I'm doing that's not right in 5th edition.
So you're relying on me?
A little bit.
James or Jane, because one of them's competent and you said the other.
Oh, she thinks I'm competent.
I've never played D&D before either.
Well, yeah, but you read the book.
I have read the book, and I've got the PDF of the book up, so...
Okay, might be relying on Jane.
We're fucked. We're all fucked.
But it's not that difficult a game to play. I play as the Dungeon Master, who is the story runner, runs all of the NPCs, the non-player characters, and the enemies, and everybody else will be playing specific characters with backstories that nobody except me gets. So it's like getting lots of homework, and everybody fights me. So it's like school.
Again.
Nailed it. All right. So the story takes place on an island nation by the name of Petra. And our story starts in a small town. It's not called Gaia anymore, mostly because it sucks now. It was once a bustling port town that led onto the main roads to the rest of the island nation. But something happened about 15 years ago that caused the surrounding area to become flooded and resemble more swamps than plains. The fishing industry has taken a huge downturn, and a lot of criminals just started taking refuge there. Now the town is more commonly referred to as the Moors. It's called this because the town was once overlooked by the noble family that lives at the top of this keep just above the town called the Moors Estate. We're going to go ahead and start with Jane, who I'd like to describe herself.
I will be playing Trees, who is a Firbolg Druid. I'm going to be starting at level 3, Chaotic Good. I've been kicked out of my tribe for cracking some human heads when I got a bit upset with them sort of taking over our woods a bit, and the tribe kicked me out. So now I just wander a bit and eat plants that are into that, and befriend all the animals. I boop all the snoots and I stroke all the manes.
Nice. Well, Trees, the Moors is just ideally the perfect place for you to go. There's a big collection of people from all races there, and very little in the way of organization. You heard a long time ago that Gaia used to be really nice, and it has the benefits of a nice city, roads, currency, lots and lots of resources, and none of the drawbacks in that the government here is not very active, the town's guard is a joke, and there's mostly criminals and lawlessness. And I'll say that you find yourself on the city's main road. It's a cobblestone road flanked on either side by numerous buildings on this kind of cloudy afternoon. Most of the people are walking by, they don't really pay you any mind, keeping their heads down.
So I want to head towards the swamp.
Outside the town?
Oh, do you want me in town?
Yeah, well, what does Trees want to do?
Trees would generally be trying to look for food. She forages a lot.
Okay.
Rather than through other places. But she might head into town if she ever needed spell components.
Okay.
So perhaps I could be looking for a magic shop. Roll perception and see if I can find out somewhere that might be a vendor.
Yeah, go for it.
26.
Nice.
Not 20 plus my proficiency.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a waste to be doing that because, like I said, the town used to be pretty well kept, so it's organized very well. It doesn't take that long for Trees to find a local apothecary. It seems to have its sign misspelled. The sign says apothemary.
I'm filled with confidence. So I guess I'll head in if it's looking like it's open.
Yeah, I mean, it's more or less open. You can't really tell. There's no, open sign, but the door is unlocked. Heading inside, you find a narrow, kind of dark shop, lots of books and stuff all over the place. It's not very well organized, but you definitely feel like you're in a familiar place. this is where another magic user definitely practices their craft. You can't find much in the way of a counter, but you do notice a figure just kind of milling around looking at one of the books, which would be...
Me!
Yes.
Yay!
So please describe yourself, Becky.
Okay. I will be playing as Enough, a Tiefling wizard. She's very tall, very beautiful. She has a large set of curved horns and a very long tail that hooks round her back and coils rested round her right leg. She's been raised by a noble family, adopted when she arrived as a child, and acts as the bodyguard to the heir apparent of the noble house of Rose. What more do you want from me?
Well, you noticed that somebody come into the shop, which up until just now had been empty for about an hour.
Okay, Jen, tell me who I'm looking at.
I am 7'2", about 358 pounds. I've got blue skin and moss green hair and sort of long pointed ears in a slightly elven style.
Okay, so Enough's going to regard her briefly, taken aback at first that for a change someone's a little bit taller than her, but sees that there's nothing worthy of her particularly paying attention, just flicks her pointed ears back in slight annoyance at the disturbance and goes to turn up.
Excuse me, are you open?
Excuse me?
This is a shop, right?
It is. However, I'm not the proprietor. Do I look like a shopkeeper to you?
I have no idea what's going on. I don't really come from around here. Do you know if there is a shopkeeper around?
The small dwarven gentleman. I'm not sure where he is.
Oh, okay. Should I come back?
Shopkeep?
Enough to your, just to your right, a small pile of books kind of rattles, and then out pops a head of a dwarven man. Hello.
This patron seems to require your assistance. If I may take my leave, miss?
Lovely to meet you.
And she turns away.
Wait. Did you pay?
Did I leave? I haven't left yet, sir. However, and I'm just going to get my purse out, a map of the local area and points of interest. How much do I owe you, sir?
Oh, 5 silver.
Very well, sir.
Alright, he's kind of stuck in this pile of books, so you just kind of have to put it in his mouth. And he sits there, wriggling in that pile of books. Trees, are you going to do anything as you're watching this?
I'm just watching this. I don't like to interrupt.
Okay. After a few more minutes, he wriggles an arm free, spits the coin into his hand, and kind of closely examines it. You can tell that he is indeed hard of seeing. Takes some time to inspect it closely. Satisfied, he does palm the coin, dive back into his little pile of books to fetch his coin purse, and fishes out 5 silver to give you in turn.
Thank you very much. So
now are you going to leave, or are you just going to...
I don't know. I guess I'm done with him. I don't know. I feel like you want me to
don't have to
talk
say
to her,
anything.
but I'm not sure what I'd
You
have to
do
say.
what Enough would do. Thank you again for this character's name. Nothing.
Alright. She's just going to leave, just
Okay.
slight twitch of annoyance on her ears again.
Okay. Trees, the dwarf then turns in this pile of books to you, and he goes, "Hello."
Greetings, nice to meet you. I was just wondering, do you sell, spell components? Just the basic stuff, I need to get some supplies.
Yes. I'm stuck in this pile of books, so just go and get the stuff and then show me what you get. Please don't rob me.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I'll just run around and grab what might be good for a good week or so's worth of spells.
Okay.
How much for this lot?
He peers carefully at the small pile of components, and he does some quick calculation, kind of gets distracted, looks away. Takes a little longer for him to realize that he was supposed to be calculating some prices, and he goes, just a gold piece.
And I will hand that over.
All right.
There you go. Pleasure doing business with you.
He gives you a little wave, and he goes, you're new here?
Yeah, I just came from out of town. I just wandered in. I usually like it a bit greener, but it's quite swampy around here.
Yeah. The You got the Moors to thank for that.
I do like 'em all. They're quite green. Not very treeish, though.
Oh, no. He laughs and he goes, no, not that, the family. And
Oh,
he kind of wriggles again, managing to pull his other arm out in this pile of books. And he gestures behind him. Behind him, you can see like a small map of the area. The town itself is not really that large, but it is expansive. It's mostly residential, some shipping, occasional smith areas. But the really big thing that you notice is this very large, almost elaborately decorated keep that sits high above the town on a cliff.
that's a bit fancy.
Well, they were the nobles of the area, supposed to be watching over. But the inheritors went a little bit mad.
It sounds like people, yeah.
Yeah. You're not interested in any work, are you?
What sort of work you offering?
Well, it's not me. I just get told. He kind of... At this point, the dwarf wriggles again and pulls his way out of the books. They're very thick, heavy books. You're not sure why he was in there. But he stumbles a little bit and kind of walks over towards you and extends his hand. My name's Mary.
And I will reach down and shake his hand.
Oh yeah, there's like a 5-foot difference between the two of you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, he kind of stands on his toes to reach up to you and shakes your hand.
I'm a Firbolg. We don't tend to use names.
Okay.
I suppose... trees? Yeah, trees.
Okay. Well, he kind of walks back and shows you a little more around the shop. While there are definitely large bookcases, magical apothecary items, different beakers and what have you lining the walls, you also notice a lot of painting. They seem to be different combinations of landscapes, histories, that sort of thing. They're very nice. I don't know if Trees is into art, though.
She likes trees and green things.
Then she's taken by the landscapes of how the land used to look.
Oh, it used to be quite lovely around here.
Mm-hmm. The original Moors, they were very good at keeping the peace, keeping the land nice. We don't know what it is that brought imbalance to the area.
It's greed. It's always bloody greed.
He raises an eyebrow. You think?
It's always greed. There's plenty of nature. Nature happy to do what it's there for. And then somebody comes along, wants more than everyone else, and suddenly there's nothing for anyone.
Mary kind of looks up at you and gives a thoughtful nod. You might have a point. And I think you might be suitable for the work that's being offered. He presents you a small letter.
What's this then?
It's an invitation. You can choose to accept it or not. We do give these out a lot, but I've been asked to keep giving these to folks who might be interested in finding some work in the area.
Sure. Thank you very much. Is it impolite to read while they're still there?
I don't know, would Trees do it?
So, yeah, I'll pop it open.
The letter is actually written in very elaborate script. It's very fancy. It's kind of, from my gathering of Trees, it's kind of the thing that she would probably turn her nose up at a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's nice parchment. There's a wax seal on it with an elaborately designed M on it. The letter says, "Dearest traveler, if it would beseech you to travel to therein Moor's estate, we have hope that you will help this humble town and the humbler people to bring prosperity to the region once more." It's very vague, and it seems to be written in poor grammar.
Prosperity, eh? Sounds like somebody's losing out from somewhere. What do you know about this then, eh?
Mary kind of gives a half shrug. We get books and paintings from various vendors, and apparently whoever's still living in the estate is requesting some assistance. They've been sending those letters out for some time.
Fancy folks, is it?
He shrugs again. The last time we had proper fancy folks was probably like 60 years ago. That was back before the proper lord and lady of the Moors died.
Okay, maybe I'll check it out. Thank you. And I guess I will bid adieu and head off to find out what do.
All right, so we're going to take a break from following trees around. James, would you like to describe your character?
Litonk, halfling monk, short for a halfling, I think, 2'9". His general appearance is grubby, dirty, torn clothes, but clean shaven, and from what hair can be seen, is well kept. He has a cooking pot over his head from a previous encounter.
So I have many questions, which we can work on later. But the first question is, can Litonk read if he cannot see?
I guess not.
No? Okay. Regardless, Litonk, you'd been traveling this region for quite a while. It's kind of in your nature to seek out imbalances, and something definitely drew you to the moors. You'd heard about it for a while, but for one reason or another, you never managed to get there. Traveling in the area, you received this letter, and then you paid a small child to read the letter to you, which just gave you pretty much the message that Trees had, asking you to come visit the Moor estate, be able to help them. For what? It's not really clear.
Okay, now, Litonk's been in the area for a while. Is this since he's taken up adventuring, or is this with his backstory of...
Just since he started adventuring. He only recently came to this area specifically. He's traveled in the region,
Okay.
but this is his first time in Gaia. You've been drawn to Tavern, which is the cheapest and easiest place for you to stay. The Tavern of the Dirty Dog. So you're in the town square outside. Just arrived off of the cart. What would you like to do?
Okay. If he's accepted this invitation to help the Moors, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Then he'd probably focus on getting focused on that. Would it be apparent exactly where the Moors are, or is he going to have to start looking around, asking people to point out where he can find the Moors?
So you're in a particularly different situation. Enough and Trees, having been in town for a little bit, it is not at all difficult to find the Moors estate because, as I've described in the paintings, it's on a cliffside above the town that you guys can just see as you're walking around. Litonk cannot see it.
Okay.
But this is where the caravan dropped you off.
Okay, so stood in the town square. He's just going to spend a minute or two trying to get his bearings, listening to where people are walking. Yeah, that's essentially how I imagine Litonk seeing, not quite echolocation, but focusing on what's going on.
So like a tiny daredevil.
Yeah. So after a minute or two, he figures out that he gathers that there's one building which has particular importance. There's a lot of people coming in and out. It's quite noisy inside. It's the tavern. So he heads into the tavern.
All right. So, oh god, I'm just going to have to describe this just using sounds. New challenge. All right. So the inside of the tavern, you've stepped into somewhere really quite nice, quite rowdy, and you can hear lots of people moving around, clatter of glassware, plates. After just standing there for, I'd say, a minute trying to gather your bearings. Are you lost, child?
So Litonk ignores the misimpression of him being a child.
The voice kind of stifles a laugh. So did you decide on if you have a pan on your head or if you've got your hood up?
I'm going to say hood up. So he just says, I'm not lost, I'm new here, I need to find the Moors.
So you can't see the big castle just outside?
No.
Okay, well, that's what you're looking for. Can't miss it.
Oh, shit.
Can you take me outside and point me in the right direction?
Yeah, this person's not going to fight their curiosity, and they're going to just, kneel and look through your hood. They're being pretty rude about this.
It's not going to stop them. He'll be able to tell that they're kneeling down and what they're trying to do. I'm terrible at this.
You're fine.
Okay, yeah, so sensing what they're doing, asks, hood down.
How good is... Make a listen check for me. Yeah. That would be perception now. Damn it, see? 3rd edition.
Okay, so perception check. I have +2 on wisdom, so that's D20 +2, yeah?
Yes. Nice.
How did you get 0?
Well, you put ++.
You wrote ++2.
So you
Yeah.
got
So I'm going to let you roll that again. The kind of general noise atmosphere around you is quite harsh, but I'm going to say that you can just barely make out the disturbance of air that would be the person nodding.
Okay. Litonk, and then pulls his head down.
You hear a soft, like, gasp, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Here, you can," and you feel the grip on your hood kind of pull it back over as a hand kind of guides you over to the door. You can definitely tell you're outside again. The hand on your back feels slight. If you had to guess, you'd probably guess it's an elven lady guiding you and kind of orienting you to just a direction. You get oriented towards the cliff, and the voice says, I don't know if Litonk would even like have an innate knowledge of where north is.
No, probably not.
I don't think that's... Yeah. And the voice says, so the manor is over there, but there's not a straight line to it. I think you might need a guide or somebody going over to the moors as well.
Do you happen to know anyone?
I don't. Trees, did you decide to take up this
I'm
invitation?
going to go and see what's going on with it, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say by happenstance, you are passing by when you see this smaller elf lady standing next to what seems to be a hooded child. You overhear her say, you'll have to find somebody else going to the moors, or to guide you there, unfortunately.
You heading up that big house there?
I'm sorry, what?
You in the pan, you heading up that big house there? Hello?
If you mean the Moors manor, then yeah.
Right, so you coming then?
Yes.
Right, do you need me to hold your hand, are you right?
I'm alright, I just need... Don't run off anywhere, I guess.
Wasn't planning on it.
Within enough distance, I'll be able to follow your footsteps.
Sure, I'll walk slowly, you've only got little legs.
That's fine.
I guess there is a party of two now.
So let's take a quick break to talk to Enough and see what she wants to get up to.
Well, I'm going to say as a noble envoy, I'm probably going to have wanted to go and visit the Moors myself at some point.
Your house actually also received this letter. It's kind of curious. The lord of your house actually expressed some concern and confusion about the letter, stating that the proper lord of the Moors died like 60 years ago. So you don't know who's sending out letters, because the only people left were the sons who were lost long ago. But there's some grave concern.
Okay. So, on leaving the apothecary, she's going to take just a quick flick through the book that she bought.
Okay.
Does anything stand out?
Not particularly. Like I said, the map and kind of guide, I'll say what you got was basically a guidebook of the region. The Moors are talked briefly in the book about, again, once being called Gaia and actually having a nickname called the Golden Shores of Gaia. It used to be a very rich farmland that was well cultivated, lots of orchards, prosperous farms. It was a big central trading hub. But something happened that is very unclear to even the historians, the writers of this book. And now it's just kind of a shithole. In fact, the guidebook tells you to try to avoid staying here. It's really not that hard for you to find the keep. Like I said, you can see it. It looks like a kind of Castlevania castle. Very big stone castle in the distance, with some architecture that's kind of otherworldly looking at it. Spires that don't seem to connect to anything. Large structures that are held up by spindles. It's definitely weird and assaulting to your understanding.
So if I'd have just left bookshop and started flicking through it, would I have seen trees leave and start talking to Litonk? Would I have overheard them?
Yeah, so you're not too far off the path, the main path for the town square, and So you stopped just kind of nearby to flick through the book, reading briefly about the history. When you see trees also leave the apothecary just maybe a few minutes after you, and walk past an elf barmaid, and like a child-sized hooded figure. Pair stop. You see trees point up to the castle, and then they decide to step off and walk with each other.
Cantrips for free, can't you?
Right.
Okay. So I get one called Thaumaturgia, and one of its effects is it can triple my voice for a second.
Okay.
If I've heard that they're going to be heading up to the castle, then Enough's just going to look directly to the pair of them both, and in a very commanding tone, just hold.
I'm gonna keep walking.
Litonk would stop until realising that trees is carrying on.
Okay. Well, she's just going to sigh a little bit and walk briskly after them. There's no way she's going to get outpaced by a small, blind halfling, so she's going to catch up fairly easily. So, I'm assuming they don't have manners where you're from. Regardless, it appears we're all going to the same place. Would you care to travel together? I'm not so sure about this area.
Oh, you talking to me? Sorry, I don't really take orders from strangers. But yeah, sure, heading up the big house.
I appreciate it. So, who's your new friend?
I've no idea, just needed some help, and I like helping people.
Seemingly.
They call me Litonk. I'm heading to the castle. I don't know what it is, because I can't actually see it.
Charmed. And then, as we're heading up, I can describe it to him, unless he'd stop my mid-description.
Carry on.
I'll join them for the walk. I'll go the far side of Litonk from trees and describe what I can see to him.
Okay. So the road up towards the Moors Manor is paved, but it's not with cobblestone. The walk is pretty easy, if quite steep, and the area, as it gets closer and closer, kind of starts to decay a little bit more. What trees there are kind of slowly begin to wither and just outright become husks as you get closer and closer to the estate.
This is going to upset trees. Just going to briefly stop and try and talk to one of the trees.
Okay. Does tree speak aloud?
Yes.
Okay.
But not in a language that most people would understand.
Okay, well then you can...
I'm just going to say sort of soothing things to the tree. It can't really reply to me physically.
No?
It can't sort of make noise back to me.
Oh, okay.
I'm just soothing a sad tree.
The tree's... You can tell the tree's sad, but it doesn't seem upset. Does that work?
Yep, that's good for me.
Cool. I don't know how any of that really works, but... Awesome.
Hang on. So basically, I have the ability to communicate in a limited manner with beasts and plants. They can understand the meaning of my words. They have no special ability to understand them in return. And I have advantage on charisma checks against them. It's a racial ability for the Firbolg.
All right.
So I guess we'll head up, since I've comforted a sad tree.
Nuff's just going to regard this with a bit of a confused look. One ear's going to twist down and the opposing eyebrow's going to cock up, looking at trees, or prompting her that she'd like some clarification, but she's not going to force it.
I care about the trees. It's what I do. It's what my people do. We look after the natural world. Stop it from falling into the hands of the greedy, being destroyed.
That's surprisingly pleasant. She's just going to twist the ear back to where it was and carry on walking, making sure that we haven't lost Litonk.
Oh no, Litonk would have stopped. There might be a cliff, it's not. Yeah, Litonk would have sort of silently observed, just understanding, observing, appreciating the situation.
Okay. Well, before too long, you come to the front gates, the estate. Again, it's a rather dilapidated stone wall surrounds the estate in both directions as far as you can see. There is some vine overgrowth, and on the inside of the gate, you can see some wildflowers, trees. It seems almost paradoxical that the land seems to be decaying just outside of this area, but just inside the gates, the land seems more or less fine.
Can I roll insight and see if I can work out what this would be?
Sure.
Okay, so that's 23, not natural.
Okay, so I'll say that your first instinct is that there's some kind of malevolent force, that something inside seems to be taking life from the out. But the longer you stand there, the more Trees is forced to kind of realize that that's the opposite. It seems like the decay around here is something that's happening, and there seems to be some kind of life that's radiating from this spot. It's not very successful, as you can tell from all the dead plants.
Well, the other thing I could do is I get a free use of Detect Magic once per short or long rest.
Okay.
So, yeah, I will cast Detect Magic. Yeah, see what I can see.
Okay. I will tell you that the second that you decide to focus on detecting magic, it's like if you brought a smoke alarm inside of, like, Snoop Dogg's house. It goes off, and it goes off with such intensity that you actually have no idea how to differentiate all of the magic that you're sensing.
Okay, well, it's pretty magical. Like, very magical.
Yeah, did you want to do an Arcana check?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if I know what the magic is.
Okay.
Arcana, I've got 14.
So, you're not familiar with any magic that works like this. You can definitely have recognize the telltale signs of magical energy kind of radiating and floating around. But beyond that, you don't have any particular insight as to what kind of magic is at work, or even why. To your understanding, what's happening here, the decay, seems to be quite natural. You don't know why it's happening or how, but it's not magical, at least as far as you can tell.
Are there any guards or humans at the gate?
Nope.
Right. Ritual spells, they're free as well, aren't they?
Yes.
But they take 10 minutes.
If I propose conjuring an unseen servant to see if they can find someone before we head in bodily.
Happy to eat around, yeah.
The tongue. Never mind.
Stellar.
So, Enough's going to take her arcane focus from strapped onto her back. It's a very long quarterstaff with a strong wooden core and iron vines with roses covering it, twisted all the way around, ending with quite a large rosebud on the head. And she's just going to use that to conjure the servant.
Does your unseen servant take any particular shape?
Unseen.
Yes, oh, god damn it.
I don't understand what you're asking me.
Still technically takes shape, I believe. Let me just check.
Well, according to the book, it can do things like pour wine, so I'm assuming it's humanoid, or at least has hands. Or tentacles. It has something dexterous.
Oh, it does say shapeless. Alright. So you want it to go how far?
It's got a range of 60 feet.
Okay.
So as far into the grounds as it...
So I'm going to allow you to backtrack because you can see 60 feet and you can't see anybody.
Right. Let's just forget all that happened. Should we head in?
Sure.
The tongue's going to ask, do either of you have the request for help letter?
Yeah, still got my letter.
He's going to ask you to read it out.
I do that.
I'm trying to gather the exact wording of the invitation. Because Litonk's code of honor is... one part of it is transgressions.
Uh-huh.
So, entering someone's property without permission,
Okay.
in this case, as it's not a necessity, it's a possible conflict. But if the invitation's like, yo, come in, then he might be able to interpret that as an invitation, basically.
Each of your letters, I'll say this, Litonk, because you can't read it, you had to commit the letter to memory, and your letter is worded differently from Tree's letter, which is worded differently from Enough's letter. And I'll allow you to just gather that each of these appears to have been individually written, or potentially, it's not a form. So...
Yeah, it's not a generic letter.
Yeah. So... Between the three of them, you gather that whoever is writing these letters definitely has invited you onto the estate to come speak with them.
Okay, yeah, Liton's up for it.
Solid.
Right then, we head in.
Yeah, walking onto the estate, like I said, I'll take a moment to just describe this, and then we'll say that Enough is describing this to Litonk. The keep itself appears to be a 3-story stone-ish castle. I say stone-ish because as you draw closer, it's definitely not a stone that any of you have seen or recognize. It's not like cobblestone or even shaped hewn rock. It's giving off a weird presence altogether. The keep looks like it was designed by hand by somebody who does not understand how to design a keep. It's not symmetrical, like, at all. There are bits and bobs, like I said, that are suspended in ways that and none of you are builders, but by your understanding of physics and building, shouldn't be like that. For instance, there's like a tower that's suspended by a spindle bridge that seems to be floating, as far as you can tell. None of the windows are symmetrical. Some of them seem to be made of different sizes. The door is like obnoxiously tall, like 15 feet tall, and made out of heavy oak inlaid with wrought iron. It's a pretty big departure for Enough, who's used to bespoke manners of the upper nobility. And Trees, this is definitely not how you recognize human nobility.
Okay. Can I roll perception to see if I can glean anything from the architecture?
Yeah.
7.
No. What Trees thinks is whoever lives here is weird.
They're all bloody weird.
I'll add this, that it definitely confuses Trees that she doesn't recognize any of the stone. Although she's not an expert in stone, she's familiar enough to recognize it on sight, and she doesn't know what this stone is. So that's weird to her.
Very strange.
Would you say investigation or perception to see if I can get any more out?
Sure.
Which one do you want me to do?
Which one does Enough want to do? God damn it, I'm cursing about your name.
Well, this is like the first one. If you want me to just change it,
No. I'd
time.
rather roll with it.
Well, I'm going to investigate the stone and study how everything fits together.
Okay.
Who or what might have built it. 16.
All right. Peering Enough and looking around, poking at the walls. What you do notice is, as you draw closer, the bedrock of the keep seems to fall far more in line with what you're used to. Shaped stone, laid together, held with, I guess they'd have mortar. To the best of your knowledge, it's possible that this keep had been torn down and then rebuilt.
Well, that doesn't belong on there at all.
You're telling me?
Shall we not?
Sure. And I will give the doors a smart wrapping.
Waiting for her to rap.
A little bit.
Well, my name is Cheese and I'm knocking on your door.
As you knock, for a long while, none of you hear anything. I'd like all three of you to roll perception for me.
23.
20 not natural for me, and 13 for Jem.
Alright, so I'm gonna say, James, Litonk, you drew closer to the door, expecting for it to be answered. Trees and Enough, as you stand back, you kind of get this prickly sensation that somebody's behind you. Each of you turn. Litonk, you are too far away, so you don't even hear them turn. To see
Just staring at
a very strange-looking man with his arms spread wide. He's got like frazzly hair. Most of it is like a deep brown with a long, thick white streak running through it. His mouth is hanging wide open in a manic smile or grin. His teeth are not together, but he definitely seems happy to see you.
Is he humanoid or human?
If Trees had to guess, she would guess that he's a human.
Okay.
Enough's gonna turn round and, on seeing someone that's at least apparently from the keep, regardless of appearance, is going to clasp her hands behind her back, underneath where her staff is, to stand in a polite and presentable manner, but also to get a quick draw.
Okay.
And she's going to, with her eyes angled slightly down, as a mark of respect, "Greetings, sir. Am I to understand you're the one who summoned us?"
Yes! Welcome! And he keeps his arms spread wide. He looks like he's trying to hug somebody, but he's not drawing closer to either of you.
So what's all this about then?
You are the adventurers I have summoned, yes?
I just came to see what was happening. Yes, but yes, certainly yes. Got one of your letters.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am the Lord of the Moors, the final son of this once great house. My name is William, and who might I ask are you?
I'm Trees. The little one over there is Litonk, and enough is enough.
Fuck you.
he stops, looks over at Enough. I assume, Trees, did you kind of gesture at each of them?
Yeah.
He drops his arms, gives Enough a kind of perplexed expression for just a moment, and then he raises his arms back again and like smiles even wider than before, and he goes, "Wonderful! I am so happy to hear that you have decided to assist the noble house of Moore."
So what is it you're actually looking for?
He cocks his head and kind of looks at you. Looking for
adventurers. For what purpose?
Oh, yes. We have run into a little bit of a problem for the good townsfolk of Gaia. You see, in the catacombs deep beneath this keep, there are creatures of the night, creatures that have on occasion sought to feed on the people here. I believe they have contributed to the decay of the area, and I was in need of assistance from noble compatriots like yourself.
Can I roll insight to see if he's telling the truth?
Yeah, sure.
10.
You have no reason to believe that he's not telling the truth.
So you're just looking for someone to just head down your basement and then clear out whatever these are. Do you have any idea what they might be?
You see him kind of halt for a second, and then he says, "There are beasts of the night, likely evil spirits that have taken up temporary residence in the beasts and creatures of the depths."
Any idea how many's down there?
I know that only parties of 5 have emerged, though there could very well be more.
My lord, if I may inquire, why is it that this problem necessitates summoning an envoy from a neighbouring noble house? Surely this is something that your own guardsman could handle?
He definitely seems to be telling you what information he knows. Maybe not all of it, although it's very difficult to get a read on him.
Rolled a 6.
I'm sorry, what did I have you roll that for?
I don't know, you said roll the thing, I rolled the
Oh,
thing.
I said roll perception.
Perception.
I did as I
What
was
was
told.
You asked why he doesn't have a guard. He kind of spreads his arms and looks around, and he goes, "Perhaps you misunderstood when I said I am the last member of House Moore. I did not speak in reference to blood. I am the only member of this house, and for reasons that are not relevant, I cannot leave this estate unguarded."
Very well.
And what would be the compensation for this?
The keeps of the moors and the catacombs beneath this great city contain the treasures of many, many adventurers past, but of course, I'm happy to reward you from the stores of House Moore on your return.
To be clear, are you saying we have your leave to pillage the adventurers that have attempted this before us? Because that's somewhat unsettling.
There are those who attempted similar expeditions prior to your arrival. It is true. However, there are also adventurers from long ages past who sought final rest deep beneath these lands. They too carried many great possessions, attempting to bring them into the afterlife. Those two would be for you, should you choose to abscond with them.
I mean, they're dead. It's not like they can take them with them. Unless they're undead. They may be carrying them around with them.
Enough's just gonna twitch her ears.
Litonk is not up for the idea of...
Pillaging.
I mean, if it'll help the town out, maybe get some of the trees back to life, I'd certainly be up for giving it a go. What sort of parties usually go in there?
Many who venture in believe this to be an expedition of low importance. Those wishing to cut their teeth, farmers' sons who believe that practicing with a blade can give them the practice they need to slay creatures of the night.
How many times has that happened? How many times has an adventuring party gone down?
And not come back.
He looks between the three of you. He looks uncomfortable. He doesn't look uncomfortable because he looks guilty. He definitely looks sad. And he says, "More than I would wish. We have lost far too many young souls. Having said that, I do warn those who journey in to leave as soon as they reach an opportunity. Many have ventured in only to come back quickly, realizing the undertaking of the task. There are a few who believe themselves made of sterner stuff."
Well, look, I got nothing else going on. What do you two see? Fancy giving us an hand?
Something's not sitting right. I don't know. Obviously, we don't have the full picture, but there's something more here than just creatures of the night. I'm cautious about whether it's the right approach.
Well, I suppose we could always just wander back into the swamps.
As an envoy of my house, I am duty-bound to act in their best interests, and it seems, my lord, that there is an opportunity for us both here. Should I return successful from this undertaking, I will be returning to a man with no staff, no guards, no heirs, the last surviving member of a house. Now, should I save your keep, would you pledge it to the House of Rose upon your death?
He smiles at that. "Absolutely. Envoy of House Rose, you have it on my word that this noble keep shall become a new residence for the friends of the House of Rue. I have but one request. The final remains of my dearly departed brother are told to have lain in those catacombs. He was there before my return, and I do wish to see him again.
Sounds like it's a bit late for that.
If there's anything further I can do to assist, please do ask. I can show you the way through the manor."
Lead the way.
Sounds good.
All right. So he kind of steps between trees and enough, and then past Litonk. He's gonna pat Litonk on the pan. I don't know how Litonk takes that.
Neither do I.
And then he pushes open the doors to the manor.
I guess we'd better do some credits then. I'm Becky Toothill, and I can be found as Curiosity Epidemic on Twitter, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And if you wanted to see the character sheets for anybody that we're playing as, then they can be found on curiosityepidemic.wordpress.com. James didn't want to record any credits, but you can have these two.
I am Jane Eris Magnet. I can be found on Twitter and YouTube as Maniac Janiac. I can be found on SoundCloud as Jane Eris Magnet, where I do a comedy podcast talking about various bits of interesting media and music and stuff, games we've played, and lots of silly skits. That's Queer and Pleasant Strangers that I do with Laura Kate Dale. Also on stonemonkeyradio.blog, where I write reviews. And I can be found every Thursday UK time around 19:30 hours over on twitch.tv/Janiac, where I'll be playing something with the help of my sexy potato squad, my wonderful streaming community.
Hi, this is Nick, the Dungeon Master for the game, and you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and stream at the NicFlair. And if you'd like to read some media analysis and self-reflections that I'm writing, you can follow my blog at storieswithnick.blog. Thanks for listening.